Children's Hospital says it can't provide a forecast of how much more the project will likely cost taxpayers. It told an Oireachtas committee earlier the €1.4 billion price tag set to increase significantly. It says 900 claims have so far been made by the builder for extra costs. Sinn Féin Health spokesperson David Cullinan is frustrated by the lack of certainty over its price and completion date.
Today, as we discuss it, as it was the same 8 months ago and the same 2 years ago, we have no idea when the hospital will be opened, and we have no idea what the final cost will be. And while there's been a lot of focus on the inability of this state to build houses, it would seem we're not very good at building hospitals either, both with this and now the National Maternity Hospital.
Healthcare workers say they haven't received recognition for their work in the pandemic. Taoiseach Micheál Martin earlier told the Dáil the government is considering a bonus for workers. However, it's not clear whether that would be money or extra holidays. This newly qualified nurse described the experience of working on a COVID ward as terrifying.
I know this sounds really cheeky now, but Scotland and the UK are all getting a little something for working it, like an extra bonus. Well, I don't think we're getting anything.
Organisers of the Dublin Marathon say they know news of its cancellation is disappointing for runners. It's the second year in a row the race won't be going ahead because of COVID-19. And finally, Ireland is the most expensive country in the European Union to buy alcohol. New Eurostat research shows prices being charged here are more than double the EU average. Across Europe, only Norway and Iceland are more expensive. It's 9:02.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. School's out. Time for a family holiday in Spain, Italy, Portugal and Greece.
Cloudy tonight with some patchy drizzle and mist spreading from the northwest overnight. Minimum temperatures of 10 to 13 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Welcome along to the Football Show here on Off the Ball. Our focus very much on the second semi-final at Euro 2020. A goal apiece between England and Denmark. The second half is just kicking off. Louise Quinn, former Fiorentina defender, will be along with us in a few minutes' time to look back on a thrilling victory for Italy on penalties against Spain in the first of the semi-finals. They're waiting to see who they're going to play on Sunday, and 45 minutes to decide if it will be Denmark or England, and possibly longer and even penalties if we can't get a winner between now and the 90th minute. The upshot of that, with football here on Off the Ball, with thanks to Paddy Power's Save Our Game, they're donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal that England score at the Euros. And after that OG by Seaman Kerr in the first half, that total is now €90,000. They'll be giving away a guaranteed 100,000. It's all thanks to Paddy Power. And for information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. Johnny Ward is here with me in studio with the second half just underway. We were watching the first half, Johnny, and really, I thought Denmark were pretty good for long stages of that half and maybe unlucky not to be ahead at the break.
Yeah, they were excellent, Will. They tactically, I think they've gotten it spot on. They've broken pretty well and exposed maybe England at times. Pickford had a really, really poor first half. You could argue that he probably should have saved the goal. It was an amazing strike, but his positioning maybe... Damsgaard kind of aimed it to the corner, but it wasn't quite into the corner. But after that, Pickford gave the ball away kind of a couple of times quite sloppily as well.
Particularly one where he tried to roll the ball out to one of the defenders. And
as Ronan was saying inside, it was like a game of FIFA when you're kind of just getting a bit complacent at the back. But all was going great. But unfortunately, England, I've kind of given away my partiality there. But England just have that quality. I think Kane and Sterling's quality over the last 3 games has really shone through. And the initial chance that Sterling had, he hit it straight at Kasper Schmeichel from like a matter of yards. But then, what are we talking about? A minute later, an unbelievably good pass from Harry Kane down the line, and Saka puts it into the box, and Sterling can't. Well, it was effectively an own goal, but Sterling kind of put the pressure on Kerr, and it was 1-1. But Denmark won't be that forlorn because they would have taken, being level at the start of the game at half time. And also the fact that I think they'll have confidence in the fact that Pickford is definitely, I don't know, is he low on confidence or what, but he's had a poor game and England have looked a bit more vulnerable than they've looked defensively in recent games. They definitely look like they can get at them a little bit.
Yeah, Harry Maguire has just been booked, leading with the elbow on the aforementioned Simon Kerr as England swung in a free kick from the right-hand side. So it's going to be a free out. Kerr is being treated on the ground currently. Just to go back to the goal, Johnny, because there'll probably be debate over where Pickford should have been for the free kick. And Damsgaard, like, he whips that ball over the bar, over the wall and just underneath the crossbar. But when it hits the net, it actually is pretty central. It's well away from the corner. We were thinking if Christian Eriksen was there, we're looking at a replay again of the goal here. It goes in maybe 2/3 of the way over, really towards the middle of the goal.
Yeah, and you see this technique that they use now of kind of, I guess if they're hitting it with the laces or whatever, but you hit the ball, you kind of get under it and almost like stud it so that it has this movement. And it was moving away from goal, but sometimes I think that, I don't know, do keepers like have too much faith in their wall, because I don't think the wall there, like if the ball goes over the wall, essentially either side, the keeper's positioning then is almost a little bit irrelevant. It was very well struck. What was interesting about the goal is actually the free kick was given, because I think it was Shaw was on sort of manhandling Christensen, and it was a free kick. But you know, we saw it with I think Rice was doing it earlier with somebody as well, and it's usually not just given as a free kick. And England's players were a little bit like, well, we know that's a free kick, but you're surely not going to give that. So it presented them with another free kick in a very advanced position from which they scored. So I thought it was very good refereeing. But alarmingly for the Danes, and you know, England created 2 chances very quickly at the end. And the quality of Kane and the 2 wide guys, the pace that they have is going to be a problem. And you know, it was just this threaded ball through that basically their kind of left-sided players weren't able to deal with. But it's been a good game. I mean, we've probably not been overly entertained by England in this tournament, but this has been a very good game, and to my mind, it's been a great tournament.
And a player who is, as Denmark had another half chance, but it's saved by Pickford. Just thinking in terms of Bukayo Saka as well in this tournament, Johnny. Like, he came in, probably was no expectation of starting, being brought as a utility player because he covers so many positions. But a couple of good performances from him. And again tonight, he's been the player oftentimes drifting in behind down England's right and causing a lot of problems.
It's really hard to defend against that if your line is anyway high, and he made the run. Kane had to pick him out, but you know, there was no sense whatsoever that he was doing anything other than play the ball in for Sterling. And sometimes players, you know, Shaw hadn't originally kind of started the tournament. He came in, didn't play great against Scotland, but has really come into his own. And sometimes these things can happen quite organically. And you know, Southgate has given a lot of sort of unflashy players that wouldn't have a necessarily huge pedigree a chance, and I think the team have kind of gelled. There isn't really much of a kind of they're kind of a humble type of a team, England, but this was a major challenge because obviously they conceded a goal. They're playing it in front of their home fans, some of whom didn't, again, endear themselves just by booing the Danish anthem.
Why would you boo the Danes? Like, I can understand booing Germany and booing Scotland. Denmark and England have pretty much no history in terms of a football rivalry.
I just don't get it. I mean, I know I saw Bray Wanderers where their Twitter account was trying to take advantage of it, as they often do in these situations, but silly stuff. But in any event, the English team are actually, you know, I think they're a very likeable team, and they did come back very quickly. But it settled into Denmark not being overawed and picking up little pockets of position. The English midfield was pretty poor, it has to be said, in the first half, and that definitely will give Denmark a lot of encouragement.
It's hard to read too much into it, but Denmark beat England in the Nations League last season, and everyone kind of felt like that was a certain amount of shadow boxing because both teams were safe within their Nations League group, and it's very different to playing a knockout game. But the Danes are not overawed by taking England on. This is 2 games in a row they've played well against. No,
I watched that game at the time, actually, and obviously, you know, the sending off of Maguire was critical. Eriksen was playing, and even at 1-0, you know, Denmark kind of made hard enough work of it. But yeah, they're not overawed, and they're a decent side. And we were actually talking about this. I mean, it's kind of nonsense, but when Roy Keane was sent home from Saipan, I think it did galvanise the Irish team, really, really galvanise them as a group, and we're in this together. And it's obviously different with Eriksen, but you know, once they got out of the group, Denmark, I think mentally they were in an unbelievably good place, from the horror of having to play on against Finland and probably not wanting to ever play football again, to the situation against Russia where they just turned it on and magically qualified, and they've just grown in confidence. But make no mistake, they've been very well in this game and are certainly value for the goal, and 100% you could see them, you know, giving England a good game the second half. This is what will be interesting for England mentally, because I think mentally they crumbled in the World Cup against Croatia. It's basically the same, many of the same core players, and this will be the challenge for them, because pound for pound, they probably should be beating Denmark at home, even at this stage. And they haven't had an overly strenuous tournament at this point either. It's not like they had a tough game coming here.
Well, look, in terms of the Danes, they call it in basketball the Patrick Ewing effect. The idea that once a star player is out, everyone else has to step up their game. Denmark had to adapt as well, Johnny, when it came to Eriksson being out for the rest of the tournament. They went from playing a system where he was like a number 10 behind a striker. They've now gone 3-4-3. I think it's massively to their credit that they were that adaptable, and that everyone else seems to have upped their game when they don't have Eriksson as the focal point in their attack.
Absolutely, and they probably, like, they don't really have necessarily big names in the team, but they do have, that's a good save. They have certainly one world-class player, and that's Kasper Schmeichel, who's just made an unbelievable save.
It's a good header from Harry Maguire, and Kasper Schmeichel has to get across smartly. And what was good from Schmeichel as well, he got a very strong hand to force it out. There was no chance of any kind of follow-up with the way he got the ball clear. And Kasper Schmeichel made a brilliant save in the first half, Johnny, as well, from Raheem Sterling.
He did.
When he was in a position where he probably should have scored.
Well, Sterling hit it straight at him, but I mean, it's also good goalkeeping. He definitely evoked memories of his father by putting his two hands out and making himself as big as possible. Kasper Schmeichel, of course, his best piece of play in this tournament was obviously at the press conference where he said, has football ever been home? And I think he's gone down as something of an Irish legend, because, I'd say maybe 1% of the population mightn't want Denmark to win this game, and even they're probably actually English in Ireland. So, it's just, Denmark is the team that everyone is rooting for. And I don't know, we spoke about this before the tournament. Whatever way you say it, you still, just when it comes to crunch, there is a rivalry between Ireland and England. Maybe it's
that rivalry is required. If we're going to enjoy international football, there's no way that you have to be this idea of being mature and you have to hope that England do well because they're a jolly good bunch of lads and they're a likeable bunch. I don't necessarily want one of our main rivals to actually win something.
No, and to be fair, we want England in the tournament for a long time to keep us interested. Even though, it's great to see the game last night was superb, but England we've a fascination with England in many ways, be it the royal family, culture, music, football and so on. We want England there, but if the pubs were open, people would certainly celebrate if they were knocked out tonight.
Yeah, look, I'm fine with being knowledgeable about England from watching a fair amount of Premier League. It doesn't mean I have to actually like them. The Danes were looking for a penalty. Bratway putting the ball across the box. I think Harry Maguire comes off his knee before it hits him. It's out for a corner kick. Maguire looks a goal threat for England at the other end as well, Johnny. A few times now they've gone for free kicks. They've sent him up like they did against Ukraine. And that's one of the areas where England actually look very dangerous. Yeah,
that's been a feature under Southgate, and they've been strong at set pieces. That was an unbelievably good save by Kasper Schmeichel. And Maguire, their back four has been tested a little bit in the first half. I think, to be fair, Walker's been outstanding. He's kind of tucked in as that last man if players were sort of advanced, and Maguire has made some decent runs forward, but really in the melting pot at 57 minutes. It's a corner to Denmark and in front of their home fans as well. It's been delivered, and there's the aforementioned Maguire to head clear.
Not the best cross, because Denmark are using an unusual strategy in terms of packing the box. They're putting everyone as close to goal as they possibly can, and they're trying to get Christensen and Kjær in a position where Pickford can't come out. But if it's an outswinging corner and it goes that far behind them towards the penalty spot, they're not going to be able to do much damage. But again, a bit like Maguire, they can send big guys up here for set pieces.
I have a theory as well that corners, if you're defending corners, after a few more years of the game, you're going to be very dangerous in the counter-attack, almost as dangerous as if you're the team that's trying to score, because if you leave yourself anyway vulnerable and you've pacey players, you can break very quickly, and it's not that easy to score from a set piece, and that's a problem for Denmark there. If they do commit too many players forward, the pace of the two guys up top is going to be something that they're definitely wary of. It exposed badly for the goal, but mentally I have to admire them. They've come here, they are no way overawed whatever, and they've been actually the better team, I think, in the second half so far.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Louise Quinn in a few minutes about Italy's performance last night against Spain as we continue to watch Denmark on the attack. Another kind of half shot by Dahlberg from the edge of the box, but doesn't get great purchase on it. An easy save for Pickford. But Denmark could be happy they're creating half chances at the moment. How good was last night though, Johnny, in terms of a game? Like Spain's best performance, I think Luis Enrique said since Euro 2012, they come up short on the penalties, but themselves and Italy served up a hell of a semi-final. It was
just beautiful. You want, we've come through, and we haven't come through. We're still going through this pandemic. I've been to plenty of games myself, football behind closed doors. We've watched games behind closed doors. It's been a sterile is the word used. It's been a mundane experience, been a kind of a tough experience even to go to these games and have no fans, and to see the old truths, basically proved true again last night, where you've an amazing Italian heart from the likes of Chiellini and what it meant to them. They had I don't know, 35% possession. They basically said they weren't good enough to have the ball against Spain. You see a player like Pedri, how he played, some of his passing, and just, you know, I wasn't amazed that I wasn't amazed how well Spain played, because I've kind of been watching them, and they've just brilliant technical players. They obviously, it was beautiful to see Morata come on and score, because he's been so maligned in this tournament. But then when he took the penalty, you were like...
His head was down, though, as he walked up to take it. Like, it was a concern if you were a Spain supporter watching it, just his body language before he took it.
Because Thiago, you know, you think Thiago would be good enough to play in the Spain team. He hasn't been on the team. He had a poor game when he came on. He gave the ball away a good bit. And I'm thinking, you know, is Thiago going to put this away? And he was the best penalty ever. He just, like, looked one way and hit it the other.
Up there with Jorginho's penalty.
With Jorginho, yeah. But Morata, you're just like, you can't trust Morata to put the ball in the back of the net. As much as I felt sorry for him, but it was... I think Spain will be disappointed, but I think they'll go home and think we were part of an unbelievably good game that reaffirmed this European tournament, reaffirmed what we like to see is summer combat, and it was just great football. It was brilliant to watch. 2 fantastic goals, and I don't know, I would have kind of preferred Spain to get through. I think they'd be better against England. I think they're a better team than Italy, full stop. But Italy, all the way through, they seem to have this togetherness that is just like, you can't bottle this stuff, you know, you can't. I don't know what Mancini has done. They have an amazing attitude. You can see their body language in the penalty shootout. They missed the first penalty, but they were all together.
Even the body language before it, where Chiellini goes up to toss the coin with Jordi Alba to see who's going to get the end. He wins, he kind of picks up Jordi Alba for a hug, and you just got the impression that Chiellini's thinking, we got this.
And the 2 keepers embracing as well. It was just like,
strange.
You love to see enemies become, obviously they're not enemies, but you love to see these rivals before a penalty shootout. You can imagine like Ireland and Romania in 1990, if the 2 keepers are hugging, it would have been something that you would have had to double take. It was just beautiful to see. And
half a chance for England, which has distracted Johnny here, but eventually there's a block from Christensen as Harry Kane tried to turn. Still a goal apiece.
The other thing, sorry, is that Chiellini is what, a year or 2 younger than me. I'm you know, I can relate to the fact of getting old and your body kind of letting you know that you're old. And to see Chiellini playing and just Italian defending, it means so much. They celebrate, you know, good defensive situations, and you want all these old kind of stereotypes to be proven right, and that was fantastic. I kind of wanted Spain to win, but it was just a great game.
Yeah, it's always helpful when you've got 2 veteran defenders who played so much football together, like Chiellini and Bonucci in front of Donnarumma last night in his first major semi-final. Sorry,
I'm interrupting you, but there was a clip then where Bonucci was essentially going over to the fans and like effectively acting like a fan, and his steward came up from behind to more or less chastise him and get him out of the way. What are you doing? Like, you're just one of the fans. Bonucci looks at it like, I've just played here. I've just been playing. It was just this beautiful moment. You think of like, you know, Robbie Brady and his brother, and that where the fan and the player become one, and that was what it was like, and the steward just didn't know the difference.
Yeah, and Bonucci took an incredible penalty during the shootout too, at a vital period during it. Now, Paddy Agnew, a veteran Italian reporter, was on OTB AM earlier this morning talking about the team spirit that Mancini has fostered in that Italian camp, and he also gave an insight into the character and the personality of Chiellini as well.
I know Chiellini, I've spoken to him, and he's a very relaxed dude, and he's a guy who thinks outside the box a lot. He's not your average footballer. He looks like a big wardrobe of a defender, and he only thinks football. Well, it's not true. I mean, he's got a university degree. How many people in many players of the Euros have got a university degree?
That's very interesting. What I just thought it was, here is somebody who is at the very end of his career, who has decided, I feel alive right now. How many times in your life do you get to say, right this moment, I am alive? And he's decided to embrace the moment, as opposed to Jordi Alba, who's like, oh, I've got the weight of Catalonia, I've got the weight of Castilian Spain, I'm captain in this team, I've got to go over there, my manager, I'm not really sure, our best striker, he didn't pick him, played well, but do I trust any of these guys? Whereas Chiellini's like, whatever happens, it's about to happen, we can't stop it.
Yeah. I also think the atmosphere that Mancini's created within the Italian camp, the sense of we're all in this together, the sense of gruppo, as the Italians call it, is there too. I mean, they feel very sure where they are, and they're in a very good place, the Italians, with Mancini. I mean, I think an awful lot of credit to what's happened to Italy in the last month rests clearly with Mancini.
Well, Johnny, Mancini's got to go a lot of credit, because most people wrote off what he did at Man City as, look, he was able to sign some of the best players around Europe, put them together into a team, and it was Aguero who won the title with the last minute winner as opposed to Mancini's tactics. But this is an Italian team who've gone more than 30 games unbeaten. They had, tough enough games in the Nations League, and they've had a very tough side to draw here at the Euros too. How much credit do we have to give to Mancini for the run they're on?
Yeah, I think coaching at international level is completely different to club. I do wonder if Gareth Southgate went for a job in the Premier League, how would he get on? Well, he'd get a job, but how would he get on? I'm not so sure, because this is a completely different, the games are way more important because it's such a small window of matches, so you have to set up and do the basics and so on and so forth. But we saw maybe with France that France is the best team in the tournament, but they didn't have the best kind of morale, I think, in the tournament. Whatever Mancini has done, and this has been obvious from the first game, they have an incredible heart, an incredible will to play for Italy, and they were essentially very much outplayed against Spain. There's no doubt about that. They probably have a little bit more quality up front, but I think he does deserve credit. I think it was beautiful to see Mancini, Vialli, Luis Enrique. This is like going back to our youth when we remember these as players. And I think Italy will go into the final with all the belief that they're going to win, and the confidence of Chiellini before the penalty shootout was befitted a bunch of players that are just in a really, really good place. And it's great to see. It'll be interesting to see where Mancini goes after this, because I don't think necessarily club and international football, I don't think there's necessarily that much of a correlation.
I'm guessing he stays on for Qatar for the World Cup, and then probably looks for a job after that.
I wonder, will Chiellini, how long more will he go? I mean, Pirlo played till he was the guts of, probably similar enough, obviously. Buffon played. I
think he was 36 when he retired. Buffon is into his 40s now, going back to Parma for next season.
Which is beautiful in itself. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of it is about just keeping the team spirit right, and I think that's been obvious with Italy. I've said all along, I don't think they're an amazing bunch of players. They're a good bunch of players. I think England will probably fancy their chance to get through against them, but Mancini definitely deserves credit.
Changes about to be made. Denmark are about to make two. Jack Grealish is putting on his shirt currently to come on to try and be England's X Factor. We've still got nearly half an hour left at Wembley. We'll keep an eye on that, but when we come back from the break, we'll be talking to Louise Quinn about Italy's win against Spain last night.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie. As the country reopens, it's more important than ever to keep it local. To feature your business on The Pat Kenny Show, email us on local@newstalk.com. With thanks to Square.
First up, a Go Loud original from Newstalk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Get connected on every journey this summer with Audi Servicing. Make your Audi a connected car with a complimentary Audi data plug worth €62 when you book an expert, major or sanitization service on audiservice.ie. Enjoy 12 months roadside assistance, a full vehicle health check and Audi genuine replacement parts as standard. Your journey continues with Audi Servicing. Book now on audiservice.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
What do you look for in a day trip? Is it long, sandy beaches and rugged coastlines? Is it ancient castles and majestic gardens? Or is it picturesque towns and villages? Fingal has all this and more, right on Dublin's doorstep, but with the breathing room of the countryside. From Malahide to Howth, Portmarnock to Skerries and Castleknock to Swords, there's a world of adventure waiting to be explored. Plan your trip now at fingal.ie/visitor.
At Betfair, we know how it feels when you're in the moment, in the heat of the match, and you decide to hit cash out. Only to find cash out is suspended and you're frozen out of your bet. That's why when you bet fair this Euros, you can cash out when you want, with no suspensions on match odds. We won't freeze you out of your bet because we're Betfair.
Applies to sportsbook match odds markets on Euro Elite Football. Excludes free bets, exchange bets, bet builder, odds on that and bet settlement window. T's and C's apply. 18+. See gamblingcare.ie. Please gamble responsibly.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Welcome back to the Football Show. Will O'Callaghan and Johnny Ward here in studio watching England against Denmark. Still one apiece at Wembley, and that man, Jack Grealish, who's been very important from the bench so far from England, has just come on for Bukayo Saka, who set up the England goal towards the end of the first half. As you heard, in terms of the Save Our Game promotion with Paddy Power, football on Off the Ball with thanks to Paddy Power's Save Our Game. They are donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal that England scores at the Euros. They're now one goal away from meeting the minimum guarantee of €100,000. It's all with thanks to Paddy Power, and for information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. Denmark with a free kick, trying to swing it across, but again, that man Harry Maguire gets his head on the ball and clears it away. He's become a really important player, Johnny, for England, both ends of the field, since he's got fit and back into this England team.
Yeah, it's funny when you reference that game in the Nations League. He was in really wobbly form at the time, and I think from what I recall it was 2 yellow cards. The second one was just one of those late tackles you make when you're just not really at it, when you're maybe a few % off, but he absolutely has. And I think, in fairness to him, he's very good on the ball. I think he's well able to pass the ball out defence. He's a threat from set pieces.
That's sometimes underrated. That's one of the reasons Man United bought him, was that Leicester would often roll the ball out to him in the box and he'd start an attack.
Absolutely. Like he comes comfortable, and he's well able to kind of run into spaces, left and right foot as well. And you know, his partnership with Stones, I think their two fullbacks are really excellent as well. That back four is just a really, really top class back four. And Maguire has been he's had a good tournament. The thing about Grealish is, like the Germany game, this is the quality, this is what you don't want to deal with when you're set up against a team and you're doing well. Like Grealish is just that X factor that he'll do something different. You know, I think he's so good, and it wouldn't amaze me at all if he does something that turns this around, because he just has that quality. And I think he'd probably a little bit of a point to prove as well, whereas he could easily have been playing more than he has. Yep.
Oftentimes during this tournament he's been crucial. From going from talking about a defender in terms of Harry Maguire, let's talk to a defender with the Republic of Ireland defender Louise Quinn, who's now with us. Louise, how are you getting on?
Hi guys, how's it going?
Good. We're kind of enthralled by watching this game. It's not quite as breakneck speed as last night between Italy and Spain, but nonetheless this is pretty absorbing, seeing who's going to get a winner here in the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, exactly. I have it on in the background here, so if the eyes scan away or some curse words, you might have to get the bleeper out to stop me if something happens. But no, I was loving it, Joe. It wasn't maybe not at the pace of last night's game, but just very, very exciting. I think there was a little bit of a lull in the game, but you know, as soon as Denmark scored, you really just were hoping that they could hang on, you know, just get past half time and see what they could do. But you know, England were doing what they're very good at, and getting, you know, finding Sterling and Saka getting involved, and you know, just having Harry Kane dropping off into those more kind of midfield positions. It was really kind of making a tick, because you know, even as the lads were kind of saying, you know, at the analysis at half time, the midfielders weren't threading as many balls through, so they actually, you know, they needed Harry Kane to come in there. But you know, really, the Danes are still, you know, completely putting it to them, and when they're especially breaking on the counter attack, doing it very, very well. But Kyle Walker is something else today. His speed is ridiculous.
You could see as well, Louise, couldn't you, for the goal that you're on about, when Kane goes into the pocket. Like, there were a couple of Danish players, and it was like they knew straight away, is like, we have to close this down. This isn't good, and it was essentially too late.
Yeah, exactly. You could actually even see, you know, when you see it from the other angle, they're actually in like perfect position. The Danes, the four, they're nice and compact. They're, you know, in a good high enough position. But then just that run from Saka was brilliant to kind of keep himself on side. You know, his player wasn't able to follow him. You know, and then just maybe the Vestergaard just needed a bit more of an open body, but it was perfectly threaded through. You couldn't really, you know, slate the timing of, or anything to say about the ball through. It was perfect. The run was perfect, and you know, really unfortunate for Kerr, but he had to do it.
Big shout for an England penalty here currently too, but the referee's not going to give it. Declan Rice is not happy. Him and
What's
Phillips
he giving
have
that
gone
free
in.
for there?
I'm not sure. Harry Kane has gone down, and Johnny Ward, your reaction, we'll get a replay in a moment, was that he'd been fouled.
I thought it was
the
a
England
penalty.
fans are really unhappy the penalty hasn't been given.
I'm not sure why he's giving a free out, but I thought that was a penalty.
Is he arguing that Harry Kane comes around on Delaney as Delaney comes around to try and clear the ball?
I think that might be an outstanding decision.
It does look a good decision. From the angle that we saw from the right-hand side, it looked like maybe Christensen had caught Harry Kane, but there was possibly a foul just before that.
He went back for the foul.
Yeah, so it was the foul before that.
Yeah,
so
which actually was a foul. Yeah, Louise, everything's all right in the world.
It's gone to VAR, and VAR have given a free out. So got to give credit, Johnny. That's a really good call, because we missed the initial foul on Delaney, and your focus is on Christensen catching Harry Kane on the next phase.
Yeah, I think in fairness it was a penalty, but it was a kick. Yeah, that's a good call. The referee's in a great position. And it's one of them, oh God, it would have been a horrible penalty to give away. I'm not a fan of VAR, but if VAR in a situation like that does work, and in fairness to the referee, he called it anyway. Yeah,
really good decision. So Denmark have got the ball cleared, still one apiece, and we could well be tucking in for extra time and penalties by the end of this. That's what we had last night, Louise, and like, you lived in Italy for the last year. How much do you have to respect the Italian type of defending that we've seen in this tournament, particularly last night when Spain had 7/10 of the ball, and that veteran Italian defence just had to kind of keep themselves compact and keep chances away?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think, kind of all a part of their game plan. They were going to kind of let the Spanish keep that possession, but it's the Italian defending from the entirety of the pitch, from front to back, really. They press so well. They really actually press like a club team, to be honest. They're, up in the top, they're all in sync with each other. It may not work every time, but you see when one person leaves the position where the next is, where the pressure is going to be on the ball. And Chiellini and Bonucci are just, they're the defenders you want to be. And, Chiellini then at the coin toss for the penalties, absolute mind games. And I feel like it worked for them in a strange way, or also got people to kind of back them up even more, and they're just confident. He was just brewing with confidence there, and and they really came through. But I still was very impressed with Spain. Now they had two games of extra time, and they still actually really kept at the pace. I thought Italy would take it over easily, to be honest. But when they are, it's also that risk if you do let the Spanish keep the ball, so much. They won't be doing as much running. They'll be moving the ball around. They'll be saving energy. But overall, I was very, very happy that the Italians came through with it, really, and have been the most consistent and kind of the most exciting. And I think even they've just been kind of fun to watch, from the national anthems to the antics that some of the players get up to. And and I just think they're a joy to watch at the moment.
Well, they give you both sides, because you get this Italian team who've been so freestyle attacking, and without Spinazzola maybe down the left-hand side, they're not as exciting as they would have been earlier on in the tournament, where he was fantastic. But they move around a lot. They create plenty of chances. They've had more chances than any other team in this tournament. They've now beaten Belgium, the top-ranked team in the world. They've beaten Spain, one of the other favourites to win the competition, in order to get to a final. And they've had to use those tactics, which are sometimes decried by people, like we saw in the last 15 minutes against Belgium at the weekend, to qualify for that semi-final. But that's part of it with the Italians, isn't it? If they have to be cynical, they'll do so to win.
Yeah, and if it was an Irish team doing it when we were at a stage like that, we'd say it's brilliant. It's clever. It's the right thing to do. Obviously, sometimes you don't like seeing some of the extent in it in some ways. Like Immobile again going down and miraculously recovering when they scored a goal. But but they all contribute. In some way. And if kind of moments like that were actually going to distract the opposition's player as well, that's part of it, and something that again Italy were very, very good at. They you can say that so much of the team have taken a good share of the load of pressure from the strikers, so Insigne, Chiesa, Immobile, and the defenders then stepping up and coming up for set pieces again. Chiellini and Bonucci kind of did have a goal or two disallowed themselves, but have always been a threat. And then Jorginho is just mopping everything up and and being a real playmaker for them and causing other teams such trouble. He's brilliant at his defending, but he's also brilliant at kind of threading passes through. And so it was just it was brilliant to kind of see the celebrations at the end, and they just seem so together as a team. And some people say that Mancini is maybe a bit too much, but maybe at international level, it's the perfect amount. Because when he's in the team huddle with them, they're all eyes on him, and they look happy. They love to hear what he's saying, and it's working a charm.
From your experience over there, did those traits, like the gamesmanship, maybe the passion, obviously the almost like born to defend type Italian defender, did that translate to the women's game over there?
There was definitely moments of it. I think sometimes, maybe not the greatest thing. Sometimes I think we were not as organised as I would have liked us to be, kind of defensively, and we didn't have actually, a great press from the front. But then you could play the bottom team in the league, and then their pressing would be incredible up the pitch, and you'd really have to try play around them, play through them, play over them, and figure out a certain way of doing it. But the majority of the Italian national team, or pretty much all of them apart from maybe one, plays in the Italian league, plays in the Serie A. So they really do have kind of this togetherness, and it's obviously similar with the men's team as well. There's not too many of them playing abroad, and I think you kind of see that togetherness, and you just see the women's national team really coming together and excelling in tournaments. In the World Cup they were brilliant. They had a very decent European campaign. Just got beaten by Denmark, and they are just flying, and they're a nation that are going to keep getting better, getting better and better. Really, in a couple of years, that the Serie A is going to be something really top.
Yeah, like your time with Fiorentina has come to an end now, but how does the women's Serie A compare to, say, you've played in the Women's Super League in England, you played in Scandinavia at a high level too. How does Italy compare to there?
I suppose it really is filled with the loss of a loss of individual talent. Certain skills and elements that players have are really, really difficult to deal with. And then when certain teams can bring that together, so the likes of Juventus, you could really see it with Roma this season, and they are a fairly new team. They were so difficult to play against. Sometimes the pace of how they play, their counter attack, the individual ability on the ball, the passion of when they come to it, and so they show it's definitely something where they are extremely strong, to tackle you, but then will obviously kind of take are down like a sack of spuds if you kind of try to do the same. But some of the training that we did there was some of the most physical stuff. You had to wear your shin guards during training, or someone was going to go through you. It really was something. But then you could sneeze, and then one of them will go down as well. So it was you had to really find that balance, and and I had to learn to really kind of read body language. With their back to goal, they were excellent. How they could flick it around you, which way they decided to turn, to check, to lay it off to the player and run off your shoulder and into spaces. So it was really playing against some of the best strikers that Italy has to offer. And you had to really kind of I had to get to grips with that, and I definitely struggled at the start. But it soon kind of came together, and I think that even showed when I got sent off in one of the first few games. Just trying to learn how what may be okay in England. A little bit of grappling, a little bit of fighting, small bit of pulling. It doesn't go down well there.
I remember you were saying to your buddy Jenny Murphy too that it was difficult to go to Italy with the pandemic, because naturally you're going to a different country, you're learning the lingo, you had so many restrictions around training and not being able to leave the house. Did that make it very difficult to actually adapt to life in Italy too?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of, you did, hear of stories last year, and it's a thing where the Italians really are. They are such a welcoming bunch, such a social bunch. So that was just something really difficult. They generally do all want to invite you over to their house to cook you something, which I wasn't able to get as much of as I would have hoped. But they're so interested. As long as you do it their way, they're very, very happy. But they are, extremely open people, extremely friendly. I've, made some incredible friends there. As soon as we can properly travel, Italy would be the first place I'll be going, to be honest. It was a really lovely place, but yeah, just do what they say and it's fine. Really.
This is a true story, Louise. Myself and a few mates went over to the Genoa derby a few years ago, Sampdoria and Genoa, and after the game, we kind of ended up in different bars, but a couple of the lads ended up in a bar and ended up basically drinking with the Genoa captain, much of the team, and some of the directors. And after the bar, they ended up going back to a house where they were all cooking pasta together for my mate, his mate, Imar Milanetto, who's the Genoa captain. And they were all there. They're an extremely welcoming race. Like, they're just so nice, and also obviously their food is like. But it must have Italy in the pandemic. I know it was bad, so I guess it must have taken an awful lot away from it, because that's exactly what they're like. They're just so friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And it was true. I think we were able to finally kind of get, a small bit of a get together. And honestly, at 2:00 in the morning, they were actually cooking pasta as they're, I'm like, you're not even like pizza right now. They're like, no, this is the best now. So we'll be fine tomorrow. I was like, okay. Whatever you say, plenty of cheese. Thank you.
Louise, we'll let you watch the last 10 minutes of the game in a moment, but just wondering what's next now that you've left Fiorentina. What's your plan?
Yeah, that's something that's still kind of in the balance at the moment. It's scary but exciting again. I suppose generally the hope is to get back to the WSL, and so at times it was tough to kind of get that bit more individualized of training and how much we trained and how long we trained and the type at times didn't, I feel, massively kind of suit me, and I felt the last couple of international games I wasn't at that speed that I was at before. So and then also just very kind of personal stuff to want to come home, to be closer to the family, friends. It's been a difficult 18 months for everyone, and so to be able to kind of do what I love again a bit closer to home and have them around me is something very important as well. So, so hoping kind of WSL, and obviously that league is just incredible at the moment and only getting bigger and better, every season.
Well, look, good luck with the club search, and we're looking forward to seeing you in the new season when you find a club, hopefully in England. We shall take a very short break. Johnny Ward's going to stick with me. It's still 1 apiece between England and Denmark. We'll be keeping an eye on the last 10 minutes.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
You know how every part of your business works. Square is how it all works together. Square has tools to help you manage everything. Point of sale, online, payments, and so much more. So you can take your business anywhere and keep it all connected. With less work for you and more ways to stay open to what's next. Square, the shape of things to come. Visit square.com to learn more. Square Up International Limited, trading as Square, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
I always struggle with reading, so Mom suggested we cook my favourite burgers instead. With fresh homemade guacamole and spicy pico de gallo. Yum. Of course, I didn't realise Mom only suggested cooking, so I practiced reading the recipe again and again. She's clever like that.
Enjoy our range of Tesco finest burgers, made with 100% Irish Angus beef from Bord Bia quality assured farms. Food love stories. Brought to you by Tesco. Available in the majority of larger stores, excludes Express.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Baby Alex's parents were worried.
We knew that something wasn't quite right. Milestones that he wasn't hitting.
A call was made.
VHI Paediatric Clinic. It was exactly what we needed when we needed it. They were fantastic.
The VHI consultant recommended immediate physio and speech therapy and arranged the next step in his treatment.
Met with the neurologist, got a diagnosis, cerebral palsy.
Now the path ahead looks clearer.
VHI gave us the support and the right level of care. Whatever he wants to do, it isn't going to hold Alex back.
This is Christine,
and I'm glad I'm with VHI Healthcare.
The featured customer has received gratuity for their time in making this commercial. Plan benefit limits, waiting periods, terms and conditions apply. VHI Healthcare DAC trading as VHI Healthcare is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to VHI Insurance DAC for health insurance in Ireland.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least 100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Welcome back to the football show here on Off the Ball. The clock is ticking towards 90. England have the ball inside the Denmark half. No pressure, Johnny Ward, but is this going to extra time?
Well, there's a minute and 20 left, so they kind of look happy enough both sides with it at the moment. It's been, in fairness, the last 10 or 15 minutes the intensity's dropped a bit. It's been a high intensity enough game. I think players are probably a bit tired at the end of the season, at the end of a tournament. England on the attack with 1 minute left. Shaw, if there were one man to do something.
Shaw wasn't able to get the ball back. He was trying to play a 1-2, very congested area, because understandably, John, Denmark have sent quite a few players back, and they're happy enough to just release long diagonals into the wings and try and create something from there. We have a very clear pattern here for the last 10 minutes, which is England in possession and Denmark happy to try and nick it back and get one on the break.
Yeah, they've had a couple of set pieces, as you're bemoaning there. A lot of the set pieces have been outswingers, and they haven't really threatened, despite the fact that they have some pretty big players in the team. But England, like you'd have to say, second half, they haven't overly impressed in terms of what they've created. Denmark, they just look very, very well coached. They're trying to spring England on the break, which they've had a bit of success from. I think we've got 3 more minutes.
Yeah.
Will we have drama? Walker on the ball, who's been really outstanding.
Been, I think, one of England's best players, both defensively and offensively. When Denmark have broke so many times, Kyle Walker's been able to use his pace to get back to actually stop them. Here's half a chance on the edge of the Denmark box here.
It's Harry Kane.
Harry Kane just can't get any kind of space. That's happened a couple of times now, Johnny, as well, where
they've kind of crowded him out.
Christensen and Keir were able to get across and make blocks.
You'd have to, you'd have to laud them as well, because they've coughed off so few chances. Grealish hasn't done an awful lot. I think they're very wise to him. They're basically trying to kind of double team him and force him out to the wings and stop him making those little passes that he's so good at. It's actually 6 minutes of injury time.
Yeah, the board looked like it was a 3, but it was actually a 6 we turned to the other side. So plenty of time. There was an injury to Simon Keir earlier on, which I think added to quite a bit of time here. So England, as we're in the first minute of injury time, still have got about 5, what's effectively turned into a training session of backs and forwards now at this point. England are trying to roll the ball out at this stage. But there hasn't been a change made by Southgate yet to maybe lose one of the holding players and get another attacker on. If it does go to extra time, is there possibility that Phillips or Rice get sacrificed and maybe a Jadon Sancho or Rashford get on?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, because I think he's conscious of the fact that Denmark do have a bit of a threat. Rice looks like he's kind of been in his comfort zone for much of the game. I don't think he'd be, unless there's fatigue setting in. I think Southgate, he's been conservative in the tournament. I think he'll be conscious half an hour of this. Denmark don't really look fatigued. I'd say he'll stick with it and hope that he can get a bit of magic from Kane or one of the front guys. So it's been a slightly disappointing second half, but the longer it goes on, the more it becomes a 50-50 game in effect.
And also the more the home fans who are full of energy in the first half will start to get a little bit concerned because England are not getting a breakthrough. It kind of works both ways. You've got a passionate crowd behind you, but if they turn when they get a bit frustrated, maybe that will suit Denmark. Denmark again trying to get away here on the break, but the England double pivot has stopped them. That's going to be an England free kick into about 10 yards into the Danish half. As we watch the end of this, John, you were watching Shamrock Rovers earlier on. Disappointing result against Slovan Bratislava. It's left them with very little chance to advance to the second round of the qualifiers. Away goals no longer an issue this season, but to have to win by 3 goals in Tallinn next week is a huge ask.
It is. I suppose they'll point to the fact that basically they were poor. They didn't play well at all, in fact, and they went over there. They had a chance after sort of 10 minutes that Sean Gannon really should have scored. But after that, they didn't create much. And to be honest, there was Sterling could be in here.
A half a chance for Sterling, so hold that thought for a moment. They got the ball back to Harry Kane. Again, Denmark are able to just shield it away, and that's a horrific shot from Phillips on the edge of the box that's flown into row Z.
So bizarrely enough, Rovers look like the league kind of won comfortably not that long ago. But they've had a bizarrely long list of injuries, and the team they had out today, there were a few. I was worried going into the game, looking at it. There wasn't much pace in the team. They brought in Richie Towell, who's not really match fit. He started. Watts, Burke, and Mandroyo all came off the bench. I don't think any of the three of them is fully fit, and I think all three of them would have been in a good place to start the game otherwise. But the first goal, Almanis has to do better. Sean Gannon was exposed on the right. The second goal was horrific. It was just after half time. The only thing is, though, there are no away goals, and 2-0 gives them a glimmer of hope. But you know, watching that game, they were totally outplayed. They were poor. And if you're kind of, a lot of people have been saying, I wonder what the standard of the League of Ireland is this season. We've 3 Conference League games to come tomorrow, but on that basis, you'd have to say that the standard isn't great, because Shamrock Rovers were totally outplayed really by a team in second gear.
England have got another free kick. Christensen isn't happy about the decision that's been given against him, and Vestergaard is also now going over to protest that decision. England are going to be able to whip a ball in from the right wing, but they are a long way out from goal. It was a clever move by Harry Kane to slip past the 2 Danish defenders, and eventually, I think when he felt any kind of contact, down he went. And England are going to have a free kick in a reasonable position here, but we are ticking as the crowd are all enjoying at Wembley, Johnny, when they get up on the big screen. We had a woman who looked...
I cannot get my head around that.
Really worried about extra time, and then she was celebrating that she saw herself on the big screen.
First of all, why the directors think that we're interested in these lads on watching the game in the stand, I can never get my head around that. RT used to love doing it in GA games. I don't know, is it a badge of honour to get... Like, you didn't actually achieve anything by getting on TV. They don't do it on the basis of you being better looking than the person beside you. They just do it randomly. And, like, why you would be watching a game where your team is on the cusp of potentially winning the European Championship for the first time and suddenly be completely absorbed with the fact that you're on the big screen? Well, you're not really a football fan to me.
Well, look, that free kick came to nothing either. It was crossed in. Harry Maguire didn't get any real purchase on the header from a long way out, and it was a very comfortable save in the middle of the goal from Kasper Schmeichel. So still 1 apiece as we tick very soon towards extra time, just a minute for England or Denmark to try and get a winner at Wembley. The Dundalk situation as well, Johnny, they got a nice draw in the Conference League. And like a lot of things, COVID-19 has now messed things up for them going into their game tomorrow.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people are frustrated with the delay in the Irish kind of loosening of restrictions. But it was just interesting listening to Vinnie Pert today. He was kind of saying the situation's not great because we've had an outbreak here, and he couldn't really explain it. 3 or 4 players are definitely out, as far as I can tell, if not more. And the team that they're playing, Newtown from Wales, also have an outbreak. So I think in terms of the lesser of 2 evils, I don't think it'll be too bad for Dundalk because they have great squad depth. But Sligo Rovers have had COVID issues as well. So it's clearly, the Delta variant is clearly, and COVID in general is coming into this wave now where clubs are being affected by it. I mean, Dundalk should be able to win this game. I think the two other teams going to Iceland, they're playing Icelandic teams who are both in the bottom half. They should be fairly hopeful of getting victory. I think Bows go there in a good place. But the COVID outbreak in just a wider sense is worrying. And as you mentioned, the Lions as well today, you're vaccinated and you're still getting COVID.
Yeah, that's always the concern. I think people thought that the vaccine was going to be the silver bullet for sport. Like, once people were able to get vaccinated, it was no longer a concern. And then you see, even with a 10% chance of getting infected when you've been double vaccinated, it does happen. So a lot to still be concerned about with the return, particularly of grassroots sports over the next while. England, again, are kind of laying siege to the Danish box here. This should probably be the last chance of the game, but there was no header on the cross. England have the ball now on the edge of the box. It's been swung back in. I think that's deflected off 2 England players since the cross came in, but it's found its way back to Mason Mount. Half a chance here, but Denmark have got the ball clear. Really good defending again from Denmark at the end there. Harry Kane had no space, John, when the ball got back to him.
Yeah, if this were to go to penalties as well, maybe Denmark would have a psychological edge because Pickford has, he hasn't had a great game. He's not had a great game, full stop, and that might be an issue. But the one worry would be that Denmark would get a bit tired in extra time. That they have certainly the last 10 minutes. It was a bit of a siege, but I think England will conversely say, well, we really shouldn't have gotten to this. We should be better than this. We should be able to win this game. Denmark, without Christian Eriksen at home, we should be able to beat them, and they weren't, and they did get a little bit frustrated. It's hard to call.
Yeah, well, look, Jack Grealish there created a chance towards the end. He was couldn't believe that Harry Kane wasn't able to get a better touch on it. But again, Denmark were very structured and made sure there was no space.
Goes to penalties, right?
Yeah.
Jack Grealish steps up for England and Declan Rice steps up for England. What with their Irish pedigree and that, do you want them to score or no?
No, I don't want England to win, so I don't want them to score.
do you want Rice to miss more than someone else in the team?
So you're trying to say, do I dislike Rice more than Grealish? I dislike what Rice did more than Grealish.
Yeah, I actually am the same. I don't really mind Grealish that much. I think people kind of could see that it was coming, but
My issue with Rice is really simple, Johnny. I don't mind that he went to play for England and that he felt more English than Irish. It was the fact that he came off the pitch for that USA game in June of 2018. He told the media that he was focused on Ireland and don't worry about these rumours in England currently, when it was clear as day that he had conversations with the English management and was looking at the overtures. He then said that he went off to, I think, Dubai for that summer and was supporting England at the World Cup, and said he was singing God Save the Queen before the matches only a few days after he'd lined out for Ireland at the Aviva Stadium for that game against the USA. And then he strung it out for quite some time. Like, I don't think Martin O'Neill knew when he spoke in September, October that year what was happening with Rice. The minute that Rice had decided he was going to declare, he should have told O'Neill. I know O'Neill could have capped him earlier, and that's its own debate.
I don't, in fairness, I didn't like Martin O'Neill's regime, but I didn't disagree with him on that. I don't think it's particularly fair, but everything you say there I completely agree with, and I do find it hard to watch him playing so well for England as well, and if he does take a penalty, I hope he misses.
That's fair enough, Johnny. You can say no more than that. Pickford, we have been told, is one of the best penalty takers in England training. I think he did take penalties when he played for the England 21, so intriguing to see if he steps up as one of the 5. Here's something to stick in the diary as well for this weekend as we celebrate the return of international rugby, with Ireland facing the USA in the second of 2 home summer test matches. We will be live from the Guinness Storehouse on the 10th of July on OTB's social channels, where we'll be bringing you pre and post match analysis on that game. It's an evening kickoff this time around 7:30. Coming up on OTB AM tomorrow morning from 7:30, it will be live on our social channels on Off the Ball and OTB Sports Radio. Andy Mitten will have reaction to tonight's game, which is heading to extra time. Neil Tracy recapping a big win for the Lions against the Sharks. Wexford football manager Shane Roach after their very impressive performance against Dublin last weekend. Tomorrow evening, Brian O'Driscoll is going to be with us, the former Lions captain, to look back at the Sharks and also ahead to Ireland against the USA. We'll get the thoughts of David Myler, Kevin Kilban and John Giles on the Euros final. Kevin Kilban has been on Canadian TV 24/7 pretty much over the last couple of weeks. It'll be ladies semi-final day at Wimbledon. We'll bring you the latest from SW19 with Caitlin Thompson. Richie McCormick is in for Tom Dunn. Thanks for listening. He's up next. Good luck.